Vaccines are still a big topic. The government, now that the voluntary part of the vaccination is over, the government is going to great lengths to coerce people into receiving these vaccines, even in some cases to allowing a dangerously understaffed conditions in major metropolitan hospitals all over the country in face of a resurging pandemic. That is so stupid that it's almost appears intentional. Thousands of people can die if you are short-staffed during a pandemic, and they are making it worse by trying to force vaccinations on people. People have the right to refuse, and these pharmaceutical they're wise to at least be hesitant, even though some of them should get it because their risk is too great. But some people are wise to be hesitant, and even, or at least reasonable that they're hesitant, because the pharmaceutical companies have a terrible track record. They have a track record of bribing politicians, of bribing doctors. That's why they're not even allowed to give us food anymore, because bribery was a big issue in medicine at one point. So I'm not saying that's what's happening now. I do believe that these vaccines are actually worth it to some people, to probably a majority of people. But everybody, especially people in healthcare who just spent almost 2 years on the front lines of this, dealing with COVID people every single day, the people that have the most understanding of what's going on, like, these aren't the people listening to the stories on Facebook of what goes on in hospitals. They're not conspiracy theory, you know. These are people living it. So now you're telling me that these people are stupid enough to not be able to decide for themselves if they want an immunization or not. They have absolutely every right to decide. They are the most informed patient we as doctors will ever have, and it is the basis of medicine is informed consent. That is, other than do no harm, the other pillar of medicine is informed consent. I'm not going to do anything to you unless I tell you exactly what I know will happen and what I think could happen. So for us to be so sure on the vaccines that we are willing to force everybody to do it, knowing that there are complications. They're very infrequent, but there are complications. So what happens when you force that person to get a vaccine and they die? So you just gave them a lethal injection. It is an execution. So yeah, I mean, look, the chances of dying from the vaccine are less than chances of dying for COVID for a majority of people, but not all people. The death rate for children is 0.00017%. That is less than a quarter of a person per 100,000 people, but they still die. Now, vaccination rate for them is lower still, but we don't know long-term consequences of this. And although it may be okay, it probably will be okay. We only have a year's worth of data, and it took 4 years for thalidomide. I'm not pronouncing that right, but it was a nausea medicine, I believe, that was given to pregnant women in Germany. That it took them 4 years to understand that it was causing destructive birth defects. Kids were getting born without limbs and stuff, and it took them 4 years to understand it. This is why the process is so stringent. This is why, and this is why it should be so stringent. And although pro-vaccine people are probably right, they are probably right that the vaccine helps people, those who are at high risk. The people who are skeptical of the vaccines are also right. They are also right in the sense that they are hesitant to take a product that is produced by companies that have a dismal track record as far as corruption and safety and profit margins. And this should never be allowed, because this is an introduction of corruption of government, or at least government having such authority to where they can force you to take medicine. That is communism, basically. Because unless you toe the party line, you are the undesirable. And people should never accept it. Government should not have that kind of power. You know why? Because the people, like the pharmaceutical companies, the people who have money, they are the ones that are sitting with any politician. You can elect any politician you want. You can even elect good people, but because they are sitting, they are surrounded with these people who have access, who have money for lobbyists, who have connections. They will always, that's the only side of the story they will ever hear. So even if you elect people who may have good intentions, they may not be able to affect any change. This is why the only thing that, this is why government should be as weak as possible, because that is fake weakness. Like, for example, if the government is weak, if the federal government is weak, they can't control your life, they can't tell you what to do, and we got attacked like Pearl Harbor, all Americans would still react the same when attacked. So that political weakness that the government has here in America is actually built in. Although it is inconvenient at times, it is purposely built in for that reason. So the government can't rule over every aspect of our lives and can't essentially force us to play Russian roulette, as low odds as it may be, with lethal injections. So that being said, if people are at high risk, obesity, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, high cholesterol, obesity, so on, if they have underlying lung diseases, if they're immunosuppressed somehow, AIDS, or maybe even dialysis, but I don't know that that's been associated that much, or organ transplant, or maybe even cancer, those people should be more careful. Those people should get the vaccine. To you, the vaccine is worth it no matter, because COVID is likely to kill you, or at least make you very disabled, to where the risk of the vaccine is so minimal that you should not have any thought in your mind of not taking the vaccine. The risk is worth it, but there is still some risk. Just like with every medicine, there's always risk. There is some risk when your surgeon goes to operate on you. He may kill you, but the risk is very low. I think the risk of the vaccine may be comparably low, but that has not been proven yet. So people who are hesitant for a reason. So that's the vaccine thing, and the government should not have the power to force people to take things against their will. That will never stop. Once that exists, it will never stop. And all the cultural changes that are being pushed on people, that's what's going to happen. If they can make you take medicine, they can make you do whatever they want. And you will shut up and you will accept it because you have no other choice. So unless people draw a line somewhere, you'll always be able to get fired off your job, because now with social justice, you can get fired off your job just for speaking, right? Now you can get fired for not taking the vaccine or not doing what they tell you to do. They're using this soft power, but it's still the government. They are the ones telling the employers to mandate this. And because some people who hold such large companies, they're able to mandate these things because they are the ones that put the people in power in the first place. And that's how this whole circle works. So the founding fathers of America, the government that they developed, was meant to protect us from this. And individual branches of power were never meant to be this powerful, and the federal government was never meant to be this powerful, and the federal government was definitely not authorized to put us in debt to like 28 trillion, because that was absolutely what the founding fathers were against. So there's a lot of things these corruptions that are happening in America right now, and vaccine is just this vaccine mandate is just one symptom. It's just a symptom. There are other worse things happening in America right now. And people, again, the most important amendment is really freedom of speech. If I can't say what's on my mind, if you are going to censor me, even if it's just by deplatforming, that's not okay. Of course, calls for violence may be an exception, but a very, very rare exception, because they have to be obvious. So to give any sort of power to government to be able to inject people with medications is to completely hand over control of your life to a group of people that may not have your best interest in mind at any point in their life, because they don't even understand your situation, because they have been in these positions of power their whole lives, and they just don't understand how you live or what's important to you. So that's why it's important to understand this.